What we've done over the course of time, we've quadrupled the size of our testing plan. We've cut the cost significantly over the past few months, and this effort to push to ensure insurers you're able to get your tests refunded means 150 million Americans will be able to get free tests.
Complicated though. Why not just make them free and give them out and have them available everywhere?
Should we just send one to every American?
So apparently Jen Psaki thinks it's okay to laugh off something that's a very obviously good policy. For seemingly no reason, the Biden administration has written off the idea of sending every American a COVID test. Why this is so ridiculous? I mean, right here, Jen Psaki seems to imply that there's some sort of dangerous outcome that might result from sending everybody a test, or that it could be wildly expensive.
Maybe.
Then what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost, and then what happens after that?
All I know is that other countries seem to be making them available in greater quantities for less money.
Well, I think we share the same objective, which is to make them less expensive and more accessible, right? Every country's going to do that differently, and I was just noting that, again, our tests go through the FDA approval process.
But the reality is, it really wouldn't be that expensive, and the UK is already doing something like this. It turns out this is actually a good policy, and let me be very, very clear. Joe Biden's response to this pandemic has been terrible, and there are a lot of very basic, easy things that could have been done that would have completely changed his COVID response. Just look at this point in time in June, where you see this huge dip in cases. We were very, very low in terms of coronavirus cases. And then what happened? Well, schools opened up and everybody started going back to business as usual. And then all of a sudden, you see coronavirus cases surging again. Meanwhile, when a journalist asks about a basic policy that would do fantastic in terms of slowing the spread of coronavirus, Jen Psaki laughs it off as some sort of impossibility.
Maybe.
Then what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost, and then what happens after that?
So what could we do exactly in terms of responding to the coronavirus pandemic that could really tackle the issue right now as we speak in the United States of America? Before we dive into that, I want to let you all know really quick, I do have a master's degree in biosecurity and biodefense. I know there's a lot of people in the media that love to talk about coronavirus, and since the pandemic, it really seems like everybody's magically become an expert on pandemics. But here we go, and I will give you some basic things that we could actually do to stop coronavirus in the United States. The first thing we could do is make sure that vaccines are actually getting to everybody. Now I'm talking about a door-to-door campaign to make sure that the people who are in areas who are not vaccinated are getting vaccinated, and that the government is going out of its way to schedule time to get people vaccinated in their homes so it is more convenient for the poor folks who are working 2 or 3 jobs that might not have the time to stop at a CVS or Walgreens or something to get vaccinated. On top of that, there should be at a minimum weekly testing for coronavirus that is made available to everybody for free. Everybody should be mailed a coronavirus test every single week. People should be testing themselves, and then, and here's the important part, if somebody tests positive for coronavirus, they should literally scan a little QR code that's on the test that lets the government know that they have coronavirus to record that case, and then lets the government know to reach out to all the people that they've been near and around, and they should all be put on quarantine for 2 weeks. That's right. Not only the person who has coronavirus, but every single person that has bumped into them over the previous 2 weeks should be on quarantine. And to make life easier for those people, when people are put on quarantine for those 2 weeks, they should be given a check by the government on the very first day so that their bills can be taken care of. This would be called a ring quarantine strategy, where you identify all the cases of coronavirus, you make sure everybody is vaccinated that's been exposed to coronavirus, and you put people on quarantine to make sure that they're not spreading the virus. It's actually not that complicated. And a lot of Republicans have been pointing this out and wondering about this reality, where, oh, look at all these global south countries, especially countries in Central Africa. How do they have case rates that are so low, even though there's not much vaccine availability there? Well, the reality is that a lot of people in those communities are already used to the ring vaccination and the ring quarantine methods of controlling pandemics. They've had to deal with Ebola and a litany of other diseases, all without much support from the Western world. And so through that community understanding of the basic public health measures like ring quarantines and ring vaccination strategies that they've grown accustomed to, they've been able to implement those tactics to limit the spread of coronavirus without having the vaccine available to them. The only thing stopping the United States from doing this is the fact that Democrats are unwilling to do what is necessary to stop this pandemic. They're not willing to give people checks to stay home. They're not willing to put people on quarantine. And they're not really willing to shut down things like schools. The truth of the matter is, pandemics are eminently controllable things. It just turns out that there's not a financial interest in taking care of people or stopping the pandemic. And on top of all of this, there's still the issue of vaccine patents getting in the way of people in the global south being able to get vaccinated. The United States of America is actively standing in the way of people preventing a deadly illness. And it's absolutely unbelievable how shameless Joe Biden's response to this pandemic has been. This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with my content.